Let's go ahead and look at lesson 6 in geometry, talking about identifying pairs of angles. So there's two different types we're going to talk about. And to start, complementary and supplementary. Complementary angles equal 90 degrees. They equal a right angle. So if you have a right angle and there's a line or somewhere in between, angle 1 and 2 would always add up. Angle 1 plus angle 2 would always add up to be 90 degrees. So if this angle was 70 and we knew that the problem said they're complementary, we would automatically know that this angle is 20. Those are complementary angles. Supplementary angles are angles that add up to be 180 degrees. So they add up to be a line. So there's your line. You have another ray right there that divides the line in two. Once again, this angle plus this angle equals 180, and we refer to those as supplementary angles. So say this one was 130, we would automatically know that that angle is 50. And taking that one step further with definition of theorem 6.3, if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. But that's just a different way of saying kind of what we were doing. But complementary, 90, supplementary, 180. So we'll look at one example of what a problem may look like. Example 2, we have, we want to find x and y. So we got to look at the problem and see what it gives us. Well, it gives us 40 degrees as one angle measure. And then it also gives us this symbol right here, this box. Well, I forgot one measure. It also gives us 55 degrees. But it gives us this box. And what that box means is it is a right angle. So since we know that these two angles form a right angle, we know they are complementary. And if they're complementary, we know that they add up to be 90 degrees. So in order to find x, all we need to do is 90 minus 55, and we see that x equals 35. So we have one part of the answer. Now we just need to find y. Well, you can probably figure it out that this is a straight line, so we know that all these angles combined will be 180 degrees total. So right now we have 55 plus 35. We already know that that's 90 plus 40. So all of these angles combined are actually 130 degrees. So if those are all 130 degrees, that makes this broad angle here supplementary with y. So we subtract 180 minus 130 and find y to be 50 degrees. So that is example 2. Pretty basic, pretty easy math. One other pair of angles that we are going to talk about in this lesson is vertical angles. Vertical angles, just know vertical angles are always congruent. What is a vertical angle? Well, a vertical angle would be something that is, okay, so you have two lines that intersect. Well, the opposite angles are vertical angles. So 2 and 2, these angles are vertical, therefore congruent. So if this angle was 100, we would know that this one was also 100. And then the same can be said about the two horizontal vertical angles. Those would be congruent as well. So let's do example 4. using the definitions we know. Example 4 wants us to determine the value of x and y. So we need to find x and y. Well, using what we know about vertical angles, we know that opposites are congruent. So therefore angle 1 and 2 are congruent. So what we can say is 2x minus 5 equals x plus 30. And now we have an algebraic equation and we can simply solve. We got one term, one variable in x, so we solve for x. Subtract x, do both sides. X minus 5 equals 30. Do the opposite of subtraction. X equals 35. And then we would do the same for y. Now, since we know that this whole angle is 35 degrees, oh, actually, sorry, x is 35, not the whole angle. You could solve for y in different ways. You could plug in 35 in for x. So 35 plus 30 would be 65, so we would know that this angle is 65 degrees. And we could do supplementary angles. We could do that. Or we can go ahead and do vertical angles with 3 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and do vertical angles. Since we know that they are congruent, y plus 17 equals 2y minus 81. And then we solve for that. Subtract the y. Y minus 81 equals 17. Oops. Add 81. Y would equal 98. So y would equal 98. And that is how you may use the vertical angles theorem to solve in a problem.